If you expected this week's confirmation hearings for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to be in any way civil, think again. Instead of questioning the historic nominee on the substance of her record, Republicans spent their time spouting some of the GOP's greatest hits, dog whistling to QAnon and raving about their other favorite boogeyman, critical race theory. As the Washington Post's Mike DeBonis points out, for some Republicans, the hearing served as a high-profile platform to prove their mettle to GOP voters who might someday see their names on a presidential primary ballot. Joining the discussion, Michelle Goodwin. She's a professor of law at the University of California, Irvine, and an executive committee member for the ACLU. Barbara McQuaid and Eugene Daniels are back with me. So, Michelle, before we get to the bad and the ugly, let's start with the good. Talk about this historic moment and what this week meant to you.
So the good is that Judge Jackson is so overwhelmingly qualified for this role. In fact, more qualified than many other of the sitting Supreme Court members when they were nominated. She clerked at the federal district court level, the federal appellate court level, at the United States Supreme Court. She's been a judge on the federal district court level, at the Court of Appeals level. She graduated with distinction from Harvard College and also Harvard Law School. She is a committed servant. She served as a federal public defender, something that is actually a noble point of service. So what is wonderful is that she's overwhelmingly qualified. What is wonderful is that look that her daughter gave her of such tremendous pride and joy. What is wonderful is how Senator Cory Booker captured the amazing joy that is represented in her nomination to the United States Supreme Court. All of this, which cannot be taken away by the kind of rabid, kind of scorched earth politicking that took place amongst some of the Republican members of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
All right, so Michelle, you've done us good with the good. So let's take a little listen to what Republican senators had to say, a little bad.
Let's focus on actual child pornography cases.
I am questioning your discretion, your judgment.
Do you really expect this committee to believe that you don't remember what happened?
Put their ass in jail.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Child pornography cases?
When you approach these child pornography cases.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how faithful would you say you are in terms of religion?
Do you agree with this book that is being taught with kids that babies are racist?
Your reaction?
This was absolutely horrific. What it showed was a disdain for the rule of law and a disregard for the United States Constitution. To have a test on how religious she happens to be, these questions about CRT should ring alarm bells about the sanctity of the First Amendment being trashed by these members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Questions about what is a woman should alarm every person in the United States who cares about substantive due process. And the very notion that substantive due process was on trial, let's be clear that it's through substantive due process that we get racial equality under the law, that we recognize sex equality under the law, LGBTQ equality under the law. When these senators went after her in this regard, they were not only attacking her, they were attacking our rule of law altogether. And that's what made this so alarming.
So, Eugene, was this performative politics just an audition for 2020 by Republicans, 2024?
No, of course not. They never do that. Politicians would never do that. No, that's exactly what it was, right? That like these are folks who are hoping, one, to use what they said and did over the last week in ads going up until whatever next election they have, and also so Republican voters, especially Trump voters, people who believe in some of the conspiracy theories that are connected to QAnon, are how they're going to view them and how they're going to have their back. Because one, everyone on that committee, everyone on this panel, everyone in America knows that when she is confirmed, because it does seem like that is most likely to happen, whether she gets Republican votes or not, there will be no switch of power on the Supreme Court, right? We all knew that. And so at the very beginning, leadership on the Republican side, they were really trying to not make it about race and not make it about her gender. And then we saw what we saw, and that clearly got thrown to the wayside on that panel because, you talked about dog whistles, you've talked about, the CRT, is this baby racist, things that they knew, she knew, had not come up in her legal in front of her as a judge. She said it over and over again, not allowing her to finish her questions. This is how Supreme Court nomination hearings have gone for a while, right? Auditions for the next presidential election, making sure they can have ads going forward. And that we definitely weren't expecting anything but that, even though they did promise that it was going to be a respectful hearing, and that wasn't going to happen.
Barbara, all the theatrics aside, and to the broader point that Eugene is putting out there, how do you think Judge Jackson held up? And I guess even more importantly, does this have a chilling effect on future nominees who sort of look at this and go, why would I want to put myself and my family through that?
That is a worry, Michael. So first, I think she did phenomenally well. In fact, I think if you are just an open-minded American who watched these hearings and saw in stark contrast her composure compared to the vitriol that she was getting from the senators, I think you couldn't help but to be deeply impressed. She displayed wisdom, she displayed patience, and she displayed grace. And I think when you think about the attributes you want in a judge, it is all of those things. She had an unflappable demeanor. So I think that was very important. And I think, if anything, she looked even better. We have all these amazing attributes that Professor Goodwin just laid out. And then in addition, we saw her withstand this tirade for several days, including a 13-hour hearing on the first day. So she did amazingly well. And I think she proved her mettle to be even more qualified than we thought she was going in. But the chilling effect, I think, is real. I have heard from other friends to say, thank God she is the one who is up there going through this, because she's a lot stronger than I could be. And I'm sure there are a lot of highly qualified people who say, I don't need that. I don't need my parents and my children to be in a hearing room to hear somebody put me through all of that. So I do worry that it has a chilling effect. But I'm hopeful that there are people who have the courage and the strength to rise above, because it says a lot more about those senators than it said about Judge Jackson, to hear the exchange and the show that they put on. I'm hopeful that this will backfire and it will have the kind of effect that will get us to a place of more civility instead of what we're seeing today.
Michelle, I want to get your thoughts in a little bit of time we have left as well, particularly about the chilling effect when you're looking at the impact on the lawyers who would be coming through, the judges who would coming through this process, and given what you do with those, working with those lawyers and judges. What's your thinking there?
Michael, I'm so glad that you asked this question, because there's also a chilling effect amongst those who represent people who are defendants. The fact that she was asked over and over again questions related to a very narrow set of the jurisprudence that she's had reflects really poorly not only this on the Senate Judiciary Committee, but it is chilling if you do want to go into public service, if you do want to go into public service representing individuals who've been charged by the state. Suddenly now that comes under attack, and she would be the first person on the United States Supreme Court to have been a federal defender, and that is critically important. Our first 10 amendments of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, protect people against the tyranny of the state. That is why it is actually so important that we have public servants who work in criminal defense to be in our judiciary. The United States has more people incarcerated in it than any other country in the world. So it is terrific and perfect that she is poised to go onto the United States Supreme Court, and she will be there. I am confident of this.
Michelle Goodwin, Barbara McQuaid, and Eugene Daniels, thank you all for being with us tonight and your time. Before we go, folks, the redistricting disaster in Ohio that just won't end for Republicans.